going to start looking at love and our relationship to love and our relationship to how we have identified what that is, and maybe even some strategies that we've worked out in order to get what we think is love. And it's an interesting and exciting place to play, because there's so much of how we enter into our relationships, and not just our romantic relationships, but our relationships with family, and where we are really in a subtle form of manipulation or trading needs. If I give you this, then you'll give me this. And each of those things has value to both of us. But then, of course, when that system starts breaking down because you're not giving me enough of whatever this is to me, then we start to harden and create distance. And so in some ways it's a system that, although it was intelligent and maybe it allowed for our survival when we were young, it no longer is the most powerful or the most valuable to us right now in our adult lives. And you know, we bring this into the bedroom with us, this idea of trading needs. And there's so many people that I talk to, and of course everybody talks to me about their sex life, right? So, and more than often I feel these either obligations that we're bringing into the bedroom, or ideas of how things are supposed to be, and things that we're supposed to get in return. And one of the things that has to get uncovered as we begin on this journey is we need to look at, like, where have our ideas of what it is to be sexual and have good sex come from? And a lot of the time, I mean, we live in this culture where we are saturated with external ideas of what sex is supposed to look like, what our bodies are supposed to look like, how it's supposed to go, and how what people who are having good sex look like. We see it in the movies, right? And there's, it's just completely bombarding us. And of course in the movies, like, I'm gonna be a little graphic here, but like, he slips it in and she's coming like in 3 seconds from when he, right? And it's just kind of, there's some unrealistic expectations set up. And I see it where we have internalized them. It's one thing if those things stay external, but a lot of times we've actually internalized that certain things, sometimes they're subtle, this is how it's supposed to be. And what that does when we're taking a culture that is not a, I'm gonna go ahead and say kind of a sick culture, a culture that is severely disconnected from the heart of who we are. And we are then forming our aliveness, our experience of who and what we are sexually around this societal idea that was a bit sick and deformed and maybe even perverted. And what I mean by perverted is not, rather than an organic pulse, it's had to move through some different blocks. And that's perverted. That's moved it in these funny ways that have made us think these things that may not be organic for us are what sexy is. And so we don't even know who we would be without those things. And that's very much what this journey is about. This journey is very much about who would we be sexually without some of those things. And look, like it or not, we were born and raised in this culture, so there are going to be pieces of this culture that we take with us, and so we allow for that, and we don't put too much pressure on ourselves. Now I've got to find the most organic thing. That's going to be so real, but we we want to find the middle, where here through these practices we can begin to connect into some real pulse of who we are and discover, what is it that really arouses me? What is it that really makes me feel vital and alive? So this is the beginning of the journey of looking at what happens when we open our hearts and we begin to expand our perception of what's possible sexually. We bring something different into how we make love and how we relate to our partner when we can feel the vibrancy and love and connection in our own bodies rather than relying on that exchange of needs. And then that applies to all of the ways in which we bring in our context for pleasure, for what sex should be, for what orgasm should be. So here we go, we continue on our journey of unraveling that and breaking that down so that we can land in what might be real and true for us, even if that's very different than what our partner thinks should be real and true for us, than what society thinks should be real and true for us. And we get to discover that and define that for ourselves.